Hey gang, it's your buddy Platt, back with another episode of Value Spirits. Today I think I've got something that just hits that on the nail. Not only is it lower price, but I think it's going to come out to be a really good product, something you'd really like, and that is Larceny Bourbon. I purchased this bottle at $25.99, and it comes in at 92 proof. So we're over 90 proof, under $30. We're already looking pretty good on that. Real quick, let's read the bottle. Established in 1870. Larceny Kentucky Straight Bourbon Whiskey. We know when we hear that term straight bourbon whiskey, it's aged at least 2 years. Small batch, 92 proof, wheated bourbon mash bill. We'll get into that a little bit later. And on the very bottom, we see the name John E. Fitzgerald. And that's kind of where we're starting off here. The brand Larceny came out in 2012, so it's not even 15 years old. It's still fairly new. Kind of product, even though it seems to me like it's been around longer than that, but apparently it came out in 2012. I've worked at several bars that had this. I'm sure I tried it at some point, but I don't know a lot about the brand, so I was kind of looking forward to this video. Now, the term larceny, where that comes from, was from Mr. Fitzgerald. Apparently, Mr. Fitzgerald was a treasury agent back in the late 1800s and early 1900s, or as the folks down south or in the moonshiners would say, they'd call him a revenuer, and that's what he was. At the time, we were starting to get our first kind of set of regulations on all kinds of things, but especially the spirits business, including the Bottle and Bond Act. And as part of that, the Treasury Department had free access to distilleries pretty much any time if they participated in the Bottle and Bond Act. That included giving treasury agents keys to not just the distillery, but all the different rick houses. Well, apparently Mr. Fitzgerald, after a while, decided he was going to start taking little taste every once in a while. Then maybe he'll take a sample home. And before you know it, the barrels started getting fairly light. When they come time to dump and blend them, they notice, man, some of these barrels, it's only been 2-3 years, and man, that's really kind of light. And people inside the bourbon industry start referring to these as Fitzgerald barrels. So thus, the term larceny, he was probably committing larceny back then for sure. Rumor had it that he, on the side, kind of his side hustle, was that he'd started a distillery and was selling to private customers sometime in the 1870s. Maybe that's where they're coming up with the established in 1870s, because remember, the brand itself didn't come out to 2012. But I digress. Further investigation, though, is kind of pointing out that probably wasn't true. He probably did not have a distillery. He did supposedly know how to distill and was supposedly good at it, but that he didn't have his own distillery and wasn't necessarily selling products. However, the story just kind of caught fire and became kind of folklore, to the point that in the 1880s, someone had decided to trademark the name Old Fitzgerald and create a brand and the marketing around that whole story. So he didn't even necessarily get to make a buck off the story of him taking booze, but I digress there. The brand itself survived all the way up until around Prohibition time, when it was purchased by a gentleman named Julian Pappy Van Winkle. Yes, that Pappy Van Winkle. Apparently this is while he was at Stetzer Weller. Some of you may know during Prohibition we had a huge consolidation of a lot of brands, because there's only a few distilleries allowed to even go through to make medical spirits during Prohibition. And so a lot of brands were acquired at that time, including the Old Fitzgerald that this Larceny is based off of. Now, Larceny itself and Old Fitzgerald, which is based off of, were similar to what Julian was making at Stetzer Weller. They were wheated bourbons. Now, what does that mean? That means wheat is used in the grain bill and usually in a higher level than it is. Corn always has to be the dominant grain. And in the past, rye was usually the second most dominant. But Julian, along with folks at Old Fitzgerald stuff, were making a wheated product where now wheat was the second most predominant grain in there. Larceny's mash bill comes in at 68% corn, 20% wheat, and 12% barley. They claim that's 25% more than other wheated bourbons. I'm not 100% sure about that, but if you think wheated bourbons, obviously Pappy Van Winkle is probably the most popular one. You have Buffalo Trace, some consider that a wheater. Maker's Mark is there. So this has become a category that's really taken off the last few years, and people really like the wheat because it's a little softer than the classic high rye bourbons. Larceny, besides having what we have here, which is the small batch, they also have a bourbon strength or a barrel strength product, usually around 125 proof. And then they have Old Fitzgerald's. That is a bottle and bond product that comes in 100 proof. The whole bottle and bond thing with Old Fitzgerald, it's a little bit of irony, but I totally get that. Now, going back to the established in 1870 thing, Larceny, again, the brand didn't come out till 2012, but the parent company that brought it out was Heaven Hill. It's a Heaven Hill product, and they didn't come around to 1835 or 1935 after Prohibition. So the 1870 thing's probably some loose storytelling at best. Heaven Hill is, I believe, the largest wholly privately owned, family-owned distillery in Kentucky, maybe in the U.S. They are the 7th largest, between all their brands, I think the 7th largest spirit producer in the U.S., but they have the 2nd largest bourbon inventory. Heaven Hill has a huge line of bourbons. I think Elijah Craig's in there, along with their own stuff. I know Heaven Hill has a bottle and bond. I think they do a 20-year and stuff. So quite a few products there. Again, this is a wheated bourbon. I'm really looking forward to get into it. So enough said. Let's drink some Larceny Bourbon. All right. Now, notice on the bottle, we've got some decent color there. There is no age statement on this product. All we know is it's Kentucky Straight Bourbon, so we know it's at least 2 years. Nice color. It's going for the nose. Ooh, that's nice. I get that wood. You get some of the vanillas. 92 proof, you're going to feel it. You're going to notice that alcohol even on the nose. But it's not too hot. Let's go ahead and dive in. Ooh, that is nice. Really kinds of spreads in your mouth. Of course, you get that sweet corn up front, but really kind of comes out. You start getting that barrel. You get a little wood. I'm getting some like rich, almost like a toffee-ish caramel. You know, you can almost think of like dripping, caramel, or maybe a hint of honey and brown sugar. Just those kind of dark, sweet notes and some kind of viscous like liquid. Even though this is not necessarily viscous. At 92 proof, it's you're definitely going to feel it going down, but it's not too hot. The body is still light enough, approachable enough. This is pretty good. This I could just sip on right now. I am good right now. Would it work with cola water? I'm sure. At 92 proof, it's probably high enough proof where it could work in some classic cocktails. Now, it being wheated tends to be a little sweeter, and in those classic cocktails, bourbon-style cocktails like Old Fashions, Manhattans, you already have some kind of sugary syrups in there, and so you tend to use more higher rye bourbons. This would work, but it doesn't necessarily have that rye spice or bite to balance out, sweet vermouth, or if you utilize a little simple syrup in your Old Fashioned, what have you. So just note that. But as far as just drinking something neat, I could do this all day. To me, has maybe a little more character than even like a Maker's Mark, even though I like Maker's Mark as far as on the wheated bourbons. I haven't tried Pappy in a long time, so I can't really remember how this compares to that. But man, really nice. Has sweetness, but it's a more mature sweetness that kind of really matches some of those barrel notes and the vanilla. Man, nice little bourbon. Under $30, over 90 proof. Tough to beat. Well, I hope you liked this video. If you did, please hit subscribe down below. Also, please like the video because it lets YouTube know we're putting out good content. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or things at the liquor store you'd like me to try, please leave them in the comment section, or you can always contact me on the Twitter page. Till next time, bombs up.